Welcome to this week's episode of the Caring Generation Podcast, number 247, Elder Care Strategies, Dementia Denial, and Aging Parents Support. The first challenge with dementia is recognizing it early enough to make choices. When spouses avoid talking about dementia, or children realize something is wrong with a parent, but hesitate to bring up the topic, everyone in the family eventually suffers. So, in this episode, I'll talk about 3 elder care strategies around dementia denial. Number 1, the loss of opportunity for the person diagnosed to make choices. Number 2, the physical and health risks for the caregiver spouse. And number 3, medical and ethical decisions around truth-telling. Do we tell our loved ones they have memory loss, or do we not? Many spouses or families don't want their loved one to know that they have memory loss, or don't want to tell them they have dementia because, honestly, it's a scary diagnosis. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the Caring Generation Podcast. If you're a return listener, thank you for adding the show to your weekly playlist. I'm Pamela D. Wilson, a caregiving expert, educator, and speaker with 25 years of experience helping aging and older adults and their caregivers talk about, plan for, and mediate complicated family relationships. I also help families develop elder care strategies and collaboratively manage healthcare, financial costs of care, and the responsibilities of family caregivers who act as legally responsible parties. You can learn more about me by going to my website, PamelaDWilson.com. So let's start by talking about the person who has memory loss. Honestly, nobody wants to hear bad news about their health. I don't, you don't. Even doctors don't want to give patients bad news. Specific to dementia, research confirms that while many patients want to know the truth, there are also others who don't want to know and who don't want to tell others. So the problem here is that if you're a person who suspects you have memory loss and you go to the doctor but you never bring it up, your doctor's probably not going to bring it up. If you ask, they'll respond, and probably only to the degree that you're asking. So it really is up to the person with memory loss to take an interest in identifying that there is a problem. Maybe there's a diagnosis there, and what to do about it. The biggest problem with dementia is that it's not going to improve. It is progressive. Memory loss worsens over time, along with organizational skills, also known as executive function. Decision-making declines, physical health declines. So while not telling anyone works for a period of time, your friends, your spouse, your children will probably eventually notice that something's wrong. So you might ask, well, what's wrong with waiting until everybody notices? Well, waiting if you're in denial and you don't do anything to protect yourself from events that you will be unable to control is dangerous. Do you want people, strangers, your family members, to take advantage of you because you didn't put in place plans for your care or your wishes? The hard reality is that persons diagnosed with dementia become vulnerable. They become susceptible to the influence of other people who may not always have the best of intentions. Elder neglect, financial exploitation, people stealing from the elderly with dementia, and elder abuse. It most often happens within families, your spouse, your children, someone else. So my recommendation is, rather than trusting a spouse or children or somebody else to do the right thing for you, Set up a plan for yourself that describes what you want so that anyone caring for you or helping you out, they're doing the right things instead of things that might totally go against your wishes. Here's an example. You have 4 children. Your goal is to live independently as long as possible. And then you have already picked out 2 retirement communities that you would live in if you cannot live in your home any longer. You'd be okay living with one of your children, but not with the other 3. However, you don't tell anybody. You don't put these specific wishes in writing. Your memory loss gets worse, and living alone in your home, well, it's no longer safe. The person that you appointed as your power of attorney decides that, well, spending your money on memory care, that's going to be expensive. And it's really unnecessary when, gosh, one of your kids will take you in tomorrow. But this child, it's not the one you would have chosen to live with. So, because you didn't put your plans in writing and you didn't tell anybody, what do you think happens? Your power of attorney moves you in with this child that you would have never wanted to live with, who you knew wasn't responsible and wouldn't take care of you. And so as a result, your care is being neglected. But there's nothing that you can do about it because your power of attorney thinks that your kid is the cat's meow. Well, you may be thinking, oh, that'll never happen in my family. I can tell you from my 25 years of professional work experience in elder care, working with older adults and families, it can happen, and it does. And it is an absolute nightmare for other family members who watch this go on and feel powerless to do anything. So unless you start making choices and plans early enough when you receive a diagnosis of dementia or Alzheimer's, your future, it's up in the air. Making choices and putting them in writing is the only way that you can gain certainty that what you want to happen will happen. Do you really want other people making decisions you would have never made for yourself? That's the choice for people who are diagnosed with memory loss. That's the choice that people lose when they don't understand the disease and how it progresses. And they don't have discussions about, well, what happens if this happens? What happens if that happens? What are my options? So now let's look at number 2. This one is rarely, if ever, discussed. It's the health risks for the caregiver spouse. Everybody always is so concerned about the person with dementia and the person with illness. How many of you caregivers are like, oh my gosh, how is your mom? How is your dad? Does anybody ever ask you, like, well, how are you doing? How are you handling all this? I know it's rare. Dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all progressive, irreversible, neurological diseases. And while the diagnosis is life-changing for the person with the diagnosis, it's also life-changing for the caregiving spouse. According to research that you will find on the podcast page for this episode, I'll tell you how to get there in a minute. A spouse caring for a spouse with dementia is 14.8%, almost 15%, more likely to be diagnosed with dementia themselves due to a number of factors, like lack of sleep, being on call 24/7, not paying attention to their health, not going to the doctor, worrying constantly. Now, interestingly, there's a more shocking statistic. This relates to the length of time caring for a spouse with dementia, which can be a year, 5 years, 10, 15, 20, 25 years. The longer a spouse cares for a spouse with dementia, that percentage goes up astronomically that they will also be diagnosed with dementia in the range of 48 to 600%. So while one spouse may not want to talk about dementia or make a plan, the couple needs a plan. So if you want to find this research article to start a conversation with your spouse or in your family, go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on the Media tab, then the Caring Generation, and scroll down to find episode 247. Every single episode of this podcast has a page on my website that includes links to articles, research, and videos that I don't have time to share on the podcast. The pages are up usually about 24 hours after the podcast airs, so wait a little bit and then check it out. A plan for the spouse with dementia and a plan for the caregiver, in my opinion, is necessary. So let's just take a step back for a minute and take the diagnosis of dementia out of the equation. Couples, partners, married, everybody needs a caregiving plan for the spouse who needs care first and the spouse who will be the caregiver. Because it's rare that the health status of spouses is equal, that things happen at the same time. Spouses are different ages. They've had different health habits all these years. They have different hereditary factors. So let me dig a little deeper on this. So regardless of the age you're listening, this will help you today. It'll also help you in the long run. There's a term called assortative mating, which really, in simple terms, means how do we select partners? Sometimes we select them with similar traits, or we pick somebody who is exactly opposite of us. So traits are things like educational attainment, height, health status, physical fitness, being proactive, things like that. Your traits and the traits of the person that you partner with or marry have a big effect on your lifestyle, where you live, your health, and your earning potential. So if you're already married, you probably have a little experience in how these traits affect your marriage and your life. If you're not, take this into perspective. Some spouses are planners, others are not. Some spouses are very interested in health prevention, others love the junk food. As you advance in age, as you get older, these differences become more significant because of health problems. Statistics out there say that people today, over age 50, already have, on average, 3 to 4 chronic diseases. A chronic disease is something like, well, you have high blood pressure, a little bit of arthritis, maybe asthma, some breathing problems, kidney problems, things like that. The problem is, as age advances, as that, calendar and time clock tick on, you have 1, you have 2, you have 3, you have 4, then you start taking medications, and everything kind of just goes into this spiral. So, like I mentioned, as the years advance, differences in traits become more specific and significant, especially when unexpected things happen, like a diagnosis of dementia or a heart attack or something. And one of you may be thinking, oh my gosh, we need a plan. And the other one may be thinking, oh, I can't think about this. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm just going to ignore it. Well, somewhere in the middle there is realism and practicality. Some people are more practical than others. They'd rather have the hard conversations and deal with reality. They'd rather look at worst case scenarios so that they can make plans to avoid those things from happening. Others, as the saying goes, fly by the seat of their pants with their hair on fire, all the time just reacting to life. They live on the edge. So let's give a practical example. Let's say that you're a couple and you have a big house and a big yard, and your husband takes care of the house and the yard, but he is the one diagnosed with dementia. How practical will it be for you to take care of the house and the yard when your time may be committed to taking care of your husband with dementia? Or is taking care of the house and yard really something you're interested in? Do you currently have hobbies and a social life that keeps you busy? And you're thinking, well, I don't want to give that up for taking care of a house. You know, I want to keep that. I'll be a caregiver, but I still want my life. These are things that couples don't like to think about and don't like to talk about that will have a big impact as the health of one partner declines. So, thinking of this, is it time to start talking about health and what happens when one of you has a condition that worsens? Is it time to talk about downsizing a house or moving to an easier living situation before you have to do that? A situation that doesn't require so much maintenance. So while you're still healthy, you can go out and enjoy life. Now, I get it. Change is hard. Leaving a home that you have loved is hard. Getting rid of all that stuff in your house, that's probably harder. But think of this, how hard will it be when your spouse all of a sudden needs a lot of care and you're still trying to mow the lawn and keep up with the house maintenance and everything else and maintain some type of a social life? So, as in the first example, while I mentioned that the person with dementia should take advantage of the opportunity to make their choices clear, the caregiver spouse should also have the opportunity to say what they want to make their choices clear. Because the impact on the health and well being of the caregiver spouse is equally, if not more, important. Who do you think takes care of the dementia spouse? The caregiver spouse. If their health isn't good, if their mental well being isn't good, if they're not feeling good, then guess what? Nothing is good. So, as many of you know, if you've been listening to this podcast, I have been a care manager, a medical and financial power of attorney, court appointed guardian, and conservator for a good part of my 25-year career. These conversations around dementia and really any health problem and just aging simply are so important. I can't emphasize them enough. They're difficult but necessary topics to talk about. And if you and your partner or your husband are worlds apart, it's even more difficult. Because being in denial about dementia or really any health issue can result in problems that you may not be able to imagine unless you've already been a caregiver for somebody else. Now, I know this because I've seen it happen. I consult with individuals and families every day. I talk to people all over the world about the issues that they're experiencing and how to not only deal with them and plan for care, but how to prevent more things from happening. I know this because I've seen it happen. Being realistic in families from a spousal perspective can help both spouses live their best lives. That is the best case scenario. So if you don't know how to have these conversations, there's a lot of help on my website. You can also contact me. Go to PamelaDWilson.com, click on the contact button. There's a form there that you can fill out. So let's now talk about number 3, ethical decision around truth-telling. This one is a dilemma from a couple of perspectives, the medical perspective and the family perspective. So let's say that this is you. You have memory loss. You go to your doctor. Your doctor's like, yep, you got memory loss. It's probably dementia. And you say, well, doc, you know what? Thanks for telling me, but I don't want to know any more about it. I don't want to pursue treatment, and I don't want to talk about it. Well, your memory loss progresses, and your spouse and your kids, they see you doing crazy things. You're walking around the house naked. You're driving and getting into car accidents. You flooded the house because you forgot to turn off the water faucet. There was a fire on your kitchen stove because you left the pan on and the fire going and walked out the door. Maybe you're being financially taken advantage of by internet scams, or maybe some of your children. And you're saying, there's nothing wrong with me. I am just fine. Well, your kids are trying to go to your doctor, and the doctor's not going to help them because you told the doctor you didn't want to talk about it and you didn't want anybody to know about it. So your family members, they are stuck in a really difficult situation trying to protect you, trying to help you, and they can't get any help. So then think about this one. Your parent with dementia tells you, but they don't tell your 5 other brothers and sisters. They appoint you as their power of attorney, medical and financial, the trustee of their trust, but they don't tell your other 5 siblings. These type of family secrets, they're eventually going to come out. And then, do you know what happens? Nobody in the family trusts each other. Siblings feel like their parents chose a favorite, and now all of the siblings hate each other. Other situations. Spouses hide health diagnosis from a spouse. Can you believe that? I know some of you listening might be doing this because you don't want anybody to worry. You don't want your husband to worry. You don't want your wife to worry. But you know what? Memory loss is something to worry about. The problem is it's eventually going to become noticeable. But if you refuse to talk about it, you will place your family in a very uncomfortable position of possibly having to seek court guardianship or conservatorship because you're making crazy financial decisions. You're taking the wrong medication. You're driving crazy and having accidents all the time, and the car's getting wrecked, and maybe other people are getting hurt. And your children are thinking, we got to do something about this. But you didn't make any plans, so their only option is to go to the court system. A person refusing to discuss memory loss is like a ticking time bomb, in my opinion. Your family watching this knows that something is going to happen. And if they've tried to help you and you've refused to talk about it or plan, they feel like they have no way to prevent this time bomb from exploding. And maybe they don't. In my 25 years of my career, I had clients for whom I was appointed guardian because they were so advanced in their Alzheimer's, they just couldn't make any decisions. And they refused to move to a care community. Now, as a guardian, I have to do what my clients want, unless there's really a reason not to. Many of them refused to take medication. So in these situations, I kept them safe as long as possible by bringing in caregivers. And I waited for what I called the event, the tipping point that I knew would happen because I had the experience. The event that took them to the hospital for a fall, a broken hip, a urinary tract infection, something else. That tipping point was my opportunity to never return them home. They immediately went from the hospital to a care community, or from the hospital to a nursing home to a care community. The important thing for family members in these ticking time bomb situations is to have a well thought out plan for when that event, when that tipping point happens, that you can implement this plan quickly, whether it's your parent, a spouse, or another family member. Now, the catch is you do need to have legal authority to be able to do this. You have to be the person appointed durable power of attorney. You have to be the guardian or the conservator. So, regardless of where you are in this continuum of denial, or we don't want to talk about it, or I don't know how to talk about it, you might be the person diagnosed, or the couple with one spouse, or a child with parents or grandparents, or you're in that family that just doesn't talk about these things. I urge you to start talking. Start having conversations. Become more educated about the diagnosis so that you and your loved ones can make good choices, so that you actually have opportunities to make choices. Because when you don't, those choices, they're taken away from you. Just like my clients who didn't want to leave their home, didn't want to take medications. Their choice was taken away from them when they fell or had an accident that was really unnecessary, but it happened. So, if you don't know how to get started, there is a program on my website, PamelaDWilson.com. I will put a link to it from the show transcript that has a lot of information about creating a dementia care plan. It's based on my 25 years of elder care and caregiving experience. I know it can help you and your family. You can find it by going to PamelaDWilson.com, click on support in the upper banner, then scroll down to caring for elderly parents, then go over to Module 6, creating a care plan for loved ones with memory loss. It works if you're the one with memory loss, you have parents with memory loss, spouse, grandparents. This works for anybody. So, if you will do me a favor before you go on your way today, please share a comment on your podcast app. Your comments, positive comments, help the show reach more people worldwide. I thank you all for being here for episode 247, Elder Care Strategies, Dementia Denial, and Aging Parents Support. I'm Pamela D. Wilson, a caregiving expert, educator, consultant, speaker. If you want to talk to me individually or as a family, go to Pamela D. Wilson, click on the contact button, and fill out that form. I look forward to being with you all again soon. God bless you all. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day today, tomorrow, and enjoy each week until we're here together again.